it's terrible what's happening. I mean, the John Wall story, I feel so bad for the guy, but I mean, that's a game changer. I think it's a game changer for him. He'll never be the same player. I think the team immediately recognized it, and 4 or 5 days after Ted said they're never breaking this thing up, they started to break it up.
Yeah, well, there's no question that Wall get injuring that Achilles, and there's a good likelihood he won't play even at all next season. He might come back late in the season, and as you said, with an Achilles injury and a guard whose ability to explode into the lane is his game. Yeah. You don't know who he will be whenever he does come back, and they're stuck with the max contract. I said to you guys that I didn't think they needed to sign it last year, that they should wait, and not thinking he'd be injured, just because I'm not sure that John Wall ever should have been a Supermax player to begin with. He's a very good player. Supermax player to me should be a very, very exclusive group. But it's done. They have the contract. And, the Porter thing was always, a toss-up one way or the other when they signed him to his max deal. And what they're doing here, I was a little disappointed. I don't know if you guys read Candace Buckner's story this morning, but it said that one of the goals for Leonsis and thus Grunfeld, once Wall got hurt, was to make a deal that would get them under the luxury tax. Right. I mean, who cares about the luxury tax? Ted Leonsis is a rich guy. If you want to clear salary cap money so you can try to sign people, that part I get. And, of course, with a Supermax contract, that's difficult to do. But the deal they made, I think, was to get Porter off the payroll, which I understand, and they brought back two guys probably who won't be here next year. Right. Parker's been a flameout since he was drafted with the number 2 pick 5 years ago now. He's been hurt. His offense is okay. He can't guard anybody. His defense is horrible. So you let him go.
He'll fit right in with the Wizards, with the horrible defense. He'll fit right in.
He'll fit right in.
Yeah,
there's no question. He'll fit right in because he won't guard anybody. And the Portis kid, I think, has some potential, but to bring him back next year, they'll have to pay him $20 million on a team option, and I don't see them doing that. So basically, the trade was to clear cap space eventually by getting Porter off the payroll, and they got to almost start from scratch. They've got one great player. They got Bradley Beal. John? That's it. Sorry?
Are you pro-tank?
Not tank in the sense of not trying to win, but yeah, I don't mind the idea of trading off players and saying we're going to lose games and end up with a lottery pick. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I think it's become too much of a trend, particularly in baseball. But at this point, you got to be realistic. I mean, if you make the playoffs, the Bucks are going to sweep you. So why not put yourself in the lottery, give yourself an outside chance to move up, and start to rebuild? Because they're rebuilding from scratch. I mean, everybody's saying, "Oh, Thomas Satoransky and Brian." I mean, they're okay, but you need 3 stars to have a chance to compete. Forget making the playoffs. You're supposed to be competing for a championship. You need 3 real stars. Porter was never going to be that 3rd star, and they needed one of the other stars to be a bigger guy than a guard, and they don't have that. They've never had that. Wall is a star, Beal is a star, but they didn't have nearly enough. So now they got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, how do we build a team where we'll have 3 stars? And by the way, this all started, let's be honest, when Wall and Marcin Gortat couldn't get along. That's where all this started. That didn't lead to Wall being injured, but it led to them signing Dwight Howard, who was always injured, and Ted's acting like they signed a young Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when they signed Howard. It was always a headache. There was a reason he was with 5 teams in 5 years. And they made some bad moves, and one of them was signing Wall to the Supermax contract. And I agree with you, Eric. I feel bad that he's hurt. I feel bad anybody gets hurt.
Yep. John, part of what really rankled me was when Ernie was asked about the moves. He said, well, we did them to stay competitive. What is he talking about? They're 10 games below 500, and they're allowing nearly 150 points to teams.
Yeah, I would start with the notion of stay. 22-31 is competitive. The only reason they're even on the outside look of the playoff picture is because the East is so bad after the first 5 teams. Yeah, I know that's a ridiculous comment. Ridiculous. And if I were a fan of the team, it would make me angry.
Oh, it makes me angry.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
What do you make? I mean, we have Brooks on every other week, and he's just a really genuinely nice guy.
I think he's a good guy and a good coach.
I think he must be a good coach, but I do question that this team clearly does not respond to him defensively. They just clearly, it's not working. And, I don't know what they should do, but, it's not working.
No, it's definitely not working, and to me, that's on the players. And it's also on, there's some guys who just aren't good at defense. They try, and they're not good. Yeah. I'm not sure if these guys are trying or not.
Yeah, that's the problem, though. I don't think he's not getting them to try. And
yeah, but I'm not sure if that's on him or if that's on them.
Well, it's obviously on them.
It's one of those deals where coaches often get fired because you can't fire a whole team.
Right.
And Scott may lose his job at the end of this season. But the reason they're this bad is not because of Scott Brooks. He was a good hire.
I think so, but they're not responding to him. Like, he can't figure it out. You know what I mean?
Right. Again, Dean Smith, I once asked Dean Smith, what's the key to being a great coach? He said great players. Okay, right. It doesn't matter how good a coach you are. If you don't have the right players, or if you don't have players with a good attitude, then you no matter how good a coach you are, they're not going to win.
He was actually on to something.
I mean, there's a reason Mike Krzyzewski was 38 and 47 his first 3 years. He didn't have good players.
Understood. He was actually on to something, though, the other night. We argued about it when the backups brought him back from 25, and in the last few seconds there when they had the last ball situation, ball game.
He sent a message.
He had – Bradley Beal was not on the court. He stayed with the guys. Now, these guys did not give him the best chance to win, but he stayed with those guys. He needs to do more of that.
Yeah, he does need to do more of that, and he obviously did what he did as much out of frustration as desperation. But there are again, the fact that they were down 25, that's the story. They're down 25 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Are you kidding me?
They're down 25 every game.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And then they pop up for one game against a good team. They'll play the Warriors, and they'll play them to the buzzer. That tells you there is talent there.
Exactly.
But they're just not doing their job.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't care enough.
Yeah. I think it's gotten to the point where some of these guys, they're too G'd up. Everyone's too comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable is not a good thing in any sport.
Yeah. Yeah.